One day when I was about 7, my little brother being about 5, my mum took me, my brother and my friend to a carpet and fabric store for some improvement project she was doing. Us kids wandered off and started exploring this maze of carpet walls, and in the middle of our exploring, my friend and I shot each other a look that it was time to mess with the young one. Immediately we both scream, "Oh my god, it's here!" and take off running. My brother has no idea what's going on, but instantly starts panicking. He's running, trying to catch up with us, and is freaking out, saying, "What? What is it?" My friend and I stop to catch our breath, and we look up at the top of the maze as if we were making sure that we were safe from some danger. We then tell him that we saw the African killer moth, a rare species of moth that grows from eggs planted in exotic fabrics, and that one bite from the moth can be deadly. My brother goes pale, and just as he's about to ask us something, I look up and yell, "Oh my god, it's back!" as my friend and I take off running, and ditch my now crying and fearing for his life brother. This goes on about another 10 minutes until my mum finds us and yells at us all for being stupid. All fine and dandy, or is it? Cut to a couple of years back when I'm a senior in high school and my brother's a sophomore and the whole family's hanging out in the living room. Me, him, mum, and dad. We're all talking and suddenly a huge mother of a moth flies in and starts running into the ceiling lights. My brother turns white. My dad and I are laughing at how big the thing is and how we're going to need a bowl just to catch it. Meanwhile, my brother is just on the brink of losing it. My mum and dad are brainstorming how to get out when I just say, "It's easy, we just turn off all the lights except one and it'll head towards that one." My brother flips, just loses it. "No!" He breaks down and starts crying as he runs into his room and slams the door, screaming the whole time. Yeah, I traumatized my little brother. Not quite scarred, but my sister hates every time we retell the story. I think I was about 12 and my brother was 10. My mum and 3-year-old sister went out to run errands while my brother and I stayed behind. While they were gone, we took my sister's favorite toy, a stuffed lamb named Lammy, and put the shredded up top of a white tube sock around its neck. Like Lammy was wearing a collar made of shredded up sock. We stuck Lammy's body in between the couch cushions, but left its head exposed with the shredded sock collar visible. We scattered some of my mum's cotton balls around and voila! It looks like Lammy's severed head was waiting to greet them on the couch. When my sister came home, she let out a quiet, "Who did this?" and immediately burst into tears. We were grounded, she was fine, and at 31 years old, I still feel like a complete jerk. We totally got her though. Huh? I mean, yeah, you basically staged the murder of a loved one as a prank on an infant, so it is funny, but yeah, you don't get to pass through the pearly gates unless you've passed some more tests to prove that your conduct has reversed lately. My brother and one of his friends used to sit in his room and mess around on a Ouija board. It freaked out my grandma, who was extremely superstitious, really badly, so my dad and I decided the seances had to stop. I recruited one of my friends from college, who my brother had never met, and got a pair of pure black contacts. I had my friend put them in and hide in my brother's room. Note that on a TV show my brother watches, characters who are being possessed usually appear with black eyes. When my brother and his friend started using the board, he popped out at them and started hissing. Brother and friend ran screaming out of the house and refused to sleep in his room until I finally told him it had been a prank a month or so later. In short, I tricked my 13-year-old brother into believing that Satan had materialized in his bedroom. My older brother used to play this really fun game whenever we were in a swimming pool together. He'd pretend he was the shark and I would pretend I was a panicky, screaming 5-year-old who could barely swim. Then he'd pull me under the water. 20 years later and I still hate swimming. Older brothers, we love you, but F you. Sincerely, your better looking and more successful younger brothers. Scaring people once is funny. Making them live in fear is hilarious. Keep in mind that I weigh more than 250 pounds. My brother, age 20, has always been kinda jumpy. He says it's good reflexes, but it's just skittishness. I decided to help him with the problem. Over the past 2 years, I've hidden in virtually every nook and corner of our house. In closets, under furniture, inside cabinets. Places a big old fatty like myself should not be able to fit. Every time he thinks he's found all the hiding spots, I find a new one. I've hidden under and even in his bed only to jump out and scare him crapless. He lives in a world of paranoia when he gets home, At night, when he reads in bed, at regular intervals he gets up and checks around the room with a flashlight to make sure that I'm not there hiding in the darkness. He even checks the closet multiple times a night to make sure I somehow didn't sneak into it when he closed his eyes just for a second. All of this is leading up to my final hiding place. He doesn't know it yet, but I brought a mattress that I'm storing at a friend's house. Slowly, I've been carving a me-shaped hole in it, and I'm going to replace his mattress with it, cover myself in a mattress topper, and the moment he lies down in bed, his mattress will get him. There's this dumb kid who dropped out of high school who likes me. And I mean really likes me. We're both in our 20s now, but he's completely obsessed with me. He has absolutely no life plans, and he's stuck in a plumbing business with his younger, but slightly more attractive, if I have to admit, brother. He makes no effort to get his life together at all. He likes to think that I'm his girlfriend, and he tells that to everyone he knows. He always tries to put his arm around me and make a move, even though I'm fiercely trying to tell him that I have no interest in him whatsoever. And that's not even the worst part. He's a heavy substance user, and I mean frickin' heavy. He does so many shrooms that I'm kind of surprised he has the money to eat, not to mention paying the bills. The bottom line is the dude is insane. I have a boyfriend. He's really big and muscular, and I like him a lot. His only flaw is he's a bit aggressive, and occasionally he'll take me out to lunch or to a movie date or something. But God forbid the dumb kid finds out, because if he finds out, he sets out to find me. For some reason, he thinks that my boyfriend is trying to kill me secretly or something. I don't know what he thinks. But it would pretty much scar him for life if I told him this flat out, and that I don't want him, and that I already have a boyfriend and he's not kidnapping me. That's why I never tell him. He's messed up as it is already. I don't want to drive him to self-deletion. I just wish Mario would leave me alone, and I wish his moronic brother Luigi would stop helping him. When I was little, I had a blue bear, whose name was creatively Blue Bear. Well, Blue Bear did nothing to anyone, ever, primarily because he's an inanimate object. Parents were away, and of course my brothers torment me. It was winter, and they told me he was cold, so they set him on fire. But then he was too hot, so they buried him in snow. Then he got too cold, so they cut his head off. Yeah, I don't get that logic either. He's fine though, my mum fixed him up, and he's still sleeping with me at the ripe age of 25. Brothers are horrible creatures. I was an unplanned C-section. That counts as scarring someone for life, right? That's a very literal interpretation of our subject here, but actually your mother, in all honesty, probably didn't relish this memory either, so I'd say you probably fit the criteria. Well done. My brother is horrified of walking past beds, because when he was 5, he was going to get some clothes from our mum's room. I heard him coming up the stairs, so I ran into my mum's room and hid under her bed. He came in and walked past the bed, and I grabbed his ankles and pulled him under the bed. He was horrified. Now he always checks under beds before walking near them, and he hops into bed because he's afraid he might get pulled under. I'm a horrible older sister. My brother had this issue in the bathroom where he has to open the shower curtain every time he goes to take care of business. So one time, I put his giant stuffed tiger in there and waited about 2 hours. I suddenly heard the single girliest scream I've ever heard come out of another male's mouth, and he was running down the hallway. Many laughs were had and jimmies were rustled. I was on Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds about 8 years ago, and my buddy's girlfriend kept asking if she could get my other hit over and over again. And I finally asked, "Have you ever tripped before?" She didn't. Anywho, she eventually got it, and everything was fine when we were listening to music in her room with my friend until she stopped talking and kept shaking her hair. She thought she was mildly bugging out, but it got worse. She started shrieking and shaking her hair more violently, and my friend didn't know what to do about his scared crapless tripping girlfriend, and neither did I. My trip was wearing off, my reality set in while witnessing someone else's reality fade out of orbit. Screaming, louder and louder, her mum enters the scene, and I'm literally backing up to the window to make an observation to see if I could jump 3 stories. She's still mute, besides screaming, and her mum is terrified, and so am I. My friend tells me that he thinks someone put something in her beer at the party that we didn't go to. She asks us to leave, and we did. She was fine, and slept it off. She told us that she thought spiders were all over her head, and an unexplained force kept her from talking. She thinks it was a bad ghost. Her and my friend broke up several years later, and during that time she kept checking her hair for spiders, and how she was scared of total darkness, 'cause that's when the demons come out. I've not seen her in several years, but I think she's still messed up because I dosed her up and gave her a trippy critter nightmare from hell. In short, I gave a girl some pretty strong substances and she thought spiders and demons were consuming her, and now she checks her hair every day a lot and is scared of the dark. What random act of kindness immediately came back to bite you in the butt? A few minutes ago in the McDonald's drive-thru, I offered to pay for the meal of the car behind me. The girl at the window looked puzzled and then handed me a receipt to sign, because their order was so large. What random act of kindness have you instantly regretted? I just finished an 8.5-hour shift pushing shopping carts at a higher-end grocery store. Someone asked me to help them back their car out, and I figured, why not? I helped this elderly lady back out of her spot very slowly to the point where it took about 2 minutes. As she pulled away, she told me, "Who'd have thought a Jew could be so useful?" But justice prevailed. Using my superpower of memorizing license plates, I memorized hers, and every time I saw her car, there would be a crap ton of carts surrounding it. She hit them a couple of times as she was backing out and dinged her door on them after I strategically placed them just far enough from the car. Suck it, witch. When I was about 9 years old, in the 90s, my best friend and I were very into collecting Marvel action figures. We must have owned at least 60% of all the marketed characters. Whenever we had a free time, we'd ride our bikes to Kmart and look at what they had. I didn't ever have an allowance, but any money I did get usually went to feed my collection. One week, my distant cousin came out to visit us. My friend and I tried to be cool and show him a good time, but something about him seems a little off. We ignore it and include him in our regular thing. We happen to be in Kmart one day and we see a Super Scroll. I've never seen one before and I wanted it. My cousin wanted it too. They only had one in the store. We hid it behind some other action figures so it wouldn't be bought, and I went home to get my money. While I was at home, and since my mum had my money and would always ask what it was for, I told her it was to get a Super Scroll, and my cousin mentioned that he wanted it too. So my mum told me I should buy it for my cousin. The thought horrified me. I did it anyway, and he never let me play with it, and I never saw another one at my store again. He moved to California after that, and I never saw him again, but about a year later I talked to him on the phone. I asked if he still had it. He sounded confused for a second, and then told me he'd thrown it away. I know it was a coerced act of kindness, but it was still my biggest childhood regret. And that, dear listeners, is why all cousins are terrible until they reach adulthood. They should neither be trusted nor offered any avoidable gifts out of one's own pocket. This excerpt from the guide on how to be an awful family member was brought to you by the narrator. Okay, here's mine. I was holding the door open for this girl, and then comes another, and then another, and it became a whole line of people I was obligated to hold the door for as my party left me behind, oblivious to my fate. That's why you hold the door open while standing in the doorway. The person following has to hold it open for themselves, and you move on. What happens next is not your concern. Once, I did the reach back and hold the door with one hand for the next guy to grab it and move. The next guy walked right through without looking at me, followed by his wife and 5 or 6 kids, who mostly just stared down at a phone or a handheld game console. All of them walked through without so much as acknowledging my existence. So I let the door go early and knocked the last kid on the butt. I was standing in the line at a very busy grocery store with a cart full of groceries when a friendly-looking old guy walks up behind me with one loaf of bread in his hands. I turned around to him and said to him, "It's pretty busy in here, huh? You can go ahead of me if you'd like." He gets a huge grin on his face and yells at a lady who's standing at the till next to us at the back of the line. "Anna, get your butt over here." There must have been $400 worth of groceries in her cart. There was a long line of people waiting to get their orders at Chipotle. One person asked for an extra handful of steak in their burrito. We really aren't supposed to add too much, so we kind of ration it throughout the day, but apparently everyone heard this guy's order, and surprise, everyone requested extra meat. The manager was in that day and gave me a disapproving look, while I looked back at him giving a desperate shrug. I also ripped up a couple of burrito shells by accident because there were so many more extra ingredients. This enraged the impatient line. Yeah, not such a good day for yours truly.